Welcome to the Small Business Sisterhood podcast. I'm your host, Pepper Makepeace, an online business strategist for female solopreneurs and side hustlers, and the founder of the Small Business Sisterhood, an online membership community serving small business owners in the first stages of business. Join me as I go behind the scenes with female entrepreneurs, revealing the struggles, strategies, and inspiring stories of these amazing women. If you're interested in connecting with like-minded women in a supportive online community that helps you stay focused, motivated, and accountable as you build your business, check us out at smallbusinesssisterhood.com. Today we're talking to Jyssica Yelas, the founder and CEO of Opal, a ladies' first social media and communications agency, and the co-founder of Upper Left Ladies, a community of creative entrepreneurs in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. When she's not on a photo shoot or helping clients boost their social media game, she's likely reading about astrology, dancing with her cats in the kitchen, or trying to keep her houseplants alive. Well, I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. I'm excited to talk to you again and hear more about you and your business. So thanks for being here.
Yes, thanks, Pepper, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So tell everybody a little bit about you and your business.
Yes, I'm Jess. So I'm the founder and CEO of Opal. That's my social media agency. We call it a ladies first social media and communications agency for purpose-driven brands and entrepreneurs. And then I'm also the co-founder of Upper Left Ladies, which is a community of women and femme entrepreneurs and creatives.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about what your agency does.
Yeah. So we do everything from social media management, that's our main service, to I have one-on-one consultation and coaching clients. We also do services like email and blogging and photo shoot and video shoot production. Those are a few of my favorite services we offer. So plenty of the things within the digital marketing arena that we kind of come at it from a social first perspective, you could say.
So how did you get started with being in social media?
Yeah, it definitely happened naturally. I am a definite millennial through and through. So I am definitely one of those who, let's see, I'm at the age where I definitely grew up, playing in the woods and doing those fun things outside. But then I also, and like I said, a millennial. So I also was after school growing up was all up in the AIM chat rooms and just playing online and playing the Disney games, all that good stuff. But doing social media professionally, I would say it started in college when I was at Oregon State, helping get this fashion magazine off the ground called Damn Chic. I started a street style blog for them. I started my own fashion blog there, and I started doing social media for both to drive traffic to both, right? Mm-hmm. And then, it started naturally in terms of one of my first jobs when I started in my career was for a boutique where they threw me into trying everything from, it was a really small business. So I was in the owner's basement, literally doing everything from shipping and receiving to product descriptions to newsletters to, hey, can you assistant produce this shoot? Just scrappy as hell. And one of the things that stuck was their social. It was in the earlier days of Instagram, but it did grow pretty quickly. And the owner's friends started asking me to help them with their socials. And then one day when I was working in their shoe store, a woman walked in who I say is like my little business angel. Her name's Amy. I love you. Shout out Amy. She walked in and saw that I was working on homework for Hillary Rushford's Instagram course. And she happened to be taking the same course. And she ended up being my first business coach. So yeah, in 2016, we officially became an LLC. I decided, I packaged up my passions in the way I knew I could help businesses into packages, right? And it kind of has grown and organically evolved from there. That's the short version.
I love that. There's a lot in there. I don't know what to ask about first, but tell me what you like about doing social media marketing and digital marketing for other businesses. Like, what's your passion in that?
I love this question. My passion in it is I'm an extrovert. I love just connecting with people. And at the end of the day, social media is and should be social, right? So really, I just love that I love that it's a kind of a playground for going and meeting other entrepreneurs and creatives and connecting. And a lot of people, there's a lot of love-hate relationships I think people have with social media, but it still
Yeah.
is a definitely real talk, but it's a great place to still, like create relationships, get warm leads, grow a community, create a community around your business. And then maybe you can take it off social too. But I love the social aspect and the networking aspect. And also I love helping entrepreneurs learn how to gain confidence in showing up on behalf of their business. That's usually one of the first places that they do, right? And maybe it's in terms of just talking about their business. How do I describe what I even offer, to showing up on video and really connecting with people. But I love to watch other entrepreneurs shine and grow and gain confidence with showing up. So
Yeah.
those are two of the big ones for me.
Yeah. Well, and you do a lot with storytelling too. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you use that with your clients?
Yes, absolutely. So definitely the most successful social media posts, profiles, the things that convert and work are storytelling, are posts that involve storytelling, because I mean, that's what humans have been doing for years and years and centuries, right?
Right.
That's just what we connect to and latch onto. I am always encouraging the brands I work with and entrepreneurs I work with to really just not worry so much about showing up as like a really pretty polished brand that has everything together, and to worry more about, not worry, but focus more on showing up in their humanness and multidimensionality. That's part of where the Opal came from. In Style Opal was, and it started as a style blog, but the fact that opal stone, right, it's not just one color, it's all of the colors, and depending on what it's next to, it might show more like pink or blue. And so I always come back to that in terms of like just the humanness and multidimensionality of brands and the humans behind the brands. But that ties into storytelling too. So in terms of how that applies to social, when I'm starting to work with a client, we always talk about the customer journey, right? And where's your client or customer right now? How are they feeling? What issues are they having? Where do they want to be, to the meeting you, the guide of the story, especially if we compare it to the hero's journey. I always refer back to that kind of storyline in archetypes, to the transformation they will ultimately see with you, and painting the picture for them about how how their business could look, or how their beauty routine could look. It could be so many things, right? But I definitely pull in storytelling in that way. It really comes into play from everything, from your visuals to your copy.
Yeah. Well, and I've always loved the copy that you have for your own business, but I know the work that you do for some of your clients too. And I always love how authentic you show up and how like truthfully, like you just are you. And I've always admired that about you. It's not a kind of, there's a yucky side to like Instagram, for example. We all know about that. And it's not what we're working towards, right? It's a different thing. And for you, like I always feel that storytelling aspect from what you're putting out, and I'm sure that your clients, it must be kind of a different mindset for them to kind of come at it from a different way. Can you like
Mhm.
talk to me a little bit about that?
Definitely. And thank you, first of all. Yeah. So clients go about how I kind of help clients go about using storytelling and kind of authenticity there for showing up for the brand.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. One of the biggest tips I have for that, and this is something I think that everybody could apply no matter if they have a service-based business or product-based business, is one of the first important things, this, right, is just being really clear on who you're talking to and who you want to serve. I really believe that even if your business changes, and we're in a pandemic, right? Everybody's been pivoting in one way or the other.
Right.
So the services you offer might even change, or the products you make might even, change or tweak. But I really think it's nice to stay strong in who you're speaking to and who you're serving. And I think one of the ways to make storytelling easiest is to really be clear on who you're speaking to. And I even ask clients to close their eyes and envision them as a fully formed human, like this one ideal client, right? Maybe it's somebody they already work with. And then when you are showing up to speak on your camera to stories or to write your captions, you're writing to them. Write it as if you are having a one-on-one conversation, because at the end of the day, it's not a whole team hovering over a cell phone. It's one person.
Right.
It's one person. So it doesn't seem like it, but you are really building that one-to-one relationship. So it's really just speaking to them, what do they need to hear today? What would make their day a little better? What would make them feel a little bit more empowered? What would give them some tangible tools to put into place today? And then coming at it from the perspective of sharing your personal story is always what's going to make that connecting piece.
And I love the reminder, and it comes up a lot when I talk to you about, social media isn't this kind of abstract thing. You're talking to actual people. You're engaging with actual people. And I don't know if when we first start out, it's we get caught up in the idea of marketing on social media, and we're having to switch from using it personally to using it as a business. And it gets kind of confusing and muddled, and we don't know how to come at it sometimes. But it still is that one-to-one. You're still talking to people, not this weird void, right? So I love that with you, it always comes back to that. And I really appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. It's so important. That word void comes up a lot when I'm speaking to entrepreneurs. Sure. It's so funny you say that. Yeah, because especially when you can get caught up in not the relationship building, and it's so easy to do this, to not be focusing on the relationship building, but the vanity metrics, right? If you get caught up in your likes and comment numbers and follower numbers and all of that, those are usually the same people who are I feel like I'm shouting into the void and no one's, listening. And I get it though. In the beginning, you're just building your community, your audience for the first time. But just getting in the mindset, having that mindset shift of no, is this a conversation with somebody rather than, hi everyone, here's what we offer. Hire us now, right?
Right. You're not standing on the street corner with a big sandwich board sign trying to promote your business, right? It's a little different.
It's not a sign spinning. It's not a billboard.
Right.
It's social media. Right. But it's still young-ish, but it's still so easy to forget.
Yeah. Have you seen any kind of shift in 2020 was kind of a difficult year on multiple levels. Have you seen any shift in terms of strategy or things that you recommend for businesses, given given where we are just as a country? It's a little challenging, but just in general, have you seen any shifts in the last year or so?
In the last year, I don't think it's any secret that video has just blown up, right? And I think I think it was going that way, but for a couple different reasons, the whole people being bored of perfect, just branded museum feeds, as I like to call them, like an Instagram feed that you scroll.
That's a great word for it.
Yeah, it's just all this negative space, and you're like, what's actually going on here? And speaking of storytelling, that hardly tells a story at all unless you have. There could be some conceptual page that does it well, sure, but for the most part, people are just plain bored of that. They want to see something real. even, influencers a lot of influencers, because we do influencer marketing as well. And I do some nano influencer projects on my page too. But everyone was doing all these styled shoots, and styled shoots are really beautiful. But everybody used to think their content needs to be so produced, and that's what does well. But so many bloggers in the last couple years have like come back to iPhone photos, or just have, come back to like doing photos on the fly a little more. Yeah. But I was going to say, second of all, with this pandemic, we're all more isolated than ever, right? Mm. And so I always say the more that you can bring into your posts and your social, the feeling of being together with that person, the better it's going to be to get that connection. So video, I mean, that's why video has just blown up from TikTok to Instagram Reels to Instagram Live and stories. And I do feel like a lot of folks were starting to get comfortable with video and showing up on just stories. But I'm even, I always encourage folks to not just show that in your feed. Maybe that's a good place to start, or not just show that in stories, but bring it back to your feed. And, that's going to be up there much longer. And I think everybody should try video in one way or the other, even if you're not quite comfortable showing your face yet. Maybe you're a maker and you do like a time lapse of you creating your product, and your customers get to say, wow, that's so cool. That's how it actually looks when she's creating this, necklace I get to wear, or whatever it is. Just invites them into your world a bit. Yeah. Yeah. And again, like kind of almost creates that more like one-to-one feeling.
Yeah, I can identify with getting sucked into those videos when people are doing what they do, and it's like it's so fascinating, and it's stuff. It's almost always stuff that I could never do. So it's like I really love watching that. I think that can be really effective for people, especially the makers of the world.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many rabbit holes you could go down, right? Yeah. So I'm sure we can get into boundaries later too. But I know it's so fun just to see how there's so many different niches and expertises, and whole worlds to be discovered. And I love that part of it too.
Well, that does bring me to a question I had of, there's kind of this, not always, but there can be this kind of blurring of a line between too personal and not like posting things or talking about things that maybe don't have anything to do with your business, and, how to kind of manage that and balance that. What are your thoughts around that?
Definitely. So two tips come to mind right off the bat. The first one is, I always recommend for my consulting clients or social media client, if we're working together, we're going to develop your content pillars. So it's so helpful and just takes such a weight and stress off for entrepreneurs to say, okay, and even if you go outside of these categories, but to create 3 to 5 content buckets, and you're like, okay, this is what I post about. This is how I'm going to be positioning myself. This is how I'm going to be, training your audience, so to speak, but also just so you know how to show up and you know what to post most of all, right? Yeah. So I always say that your content should always inspire, educate, entertain, or inform. So one easy way to go about this would be to create a content category for yourself that matches with one of those each. But really, it's a matter, I think, of just deciding, here are my 4 or 5 themes of content I'm going to be posting about. Like if you're a maker, again, maybe, for example, one is a behind the scenes making video, a process look at your process. That would go under the inform category. And then it would be, I'll go back to the necklace, to the jeweler example. The second one might be like styling tips. Like if you sell necklaces, like ways to style or layer the necklaces. The third one, and that would be like educate. And then the next one might be entertain, and maybe you're posting, maybe that would be like a meme or a GIF, or you doing a DIY, something like this. And maybe the fourth category would be inform, maybe inform or inspire. The category that might go with would be, giving them a bit of a look into your personal story. Mm-hmm. For example, if those are your 4 content categories, you could post those over and over and just say, at the very base level, you could say, I'm just going to post theme 1, 2, 3, 4 and just repeat, and then of course take into account different calendar events and your own launches and things. But that would really help you understand what you're going to be posting. But then from there, I understand that still the question comes up and the lines blur sometimes between just how personal am I going to get here. So one activity that I suggest with that is, it's fun because it's tangible pen and paper. I love when we get to do that. I suggest, like getting a blank sheet of paper, drawing a line, and it's almost like a barometer of your own like personal boundaries when it comes to social. Like draw a line, put a line at each end, put something in the middle, and then start making little tick lines and kind of from like examples from your personal story of things that you're happy to share. Like something really easy to share might be how you got started in your business, or like how last year looked compared to this year. And then you kind of make little marks along that line, the more vulnerable, I guess, the story gets, and just figure out, where your edge is there. And because there is vulnerability fatigue can be very real. And I've gotten that kind of feedback from clients before, that they're like, I know I'd be sharing my story, but I don't want to share too much, or it exhausts me to get too personal. So I think just that's a good activity to kind of figure out where that lies for you. And then you can play with pushing it a little further and further if you want to. But I like that activity for figuring out just how personal you do want to get. And you'll feel it in your body. Your body will respond. It will tell you, it's a good practice for intuition even. But, and then say, okay, at this line, I'm not going to share anything further than this. If it goes further than this line, it's going to go on my personal page, or I'm just not going to share it at all. Some things are meant to be private, right? And people have different comfortability levels.
I love that. That sounds like a great exercise. I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Because it does kind of help to think about like where things would fall, and I'm sure that line is different for people too. Like I tend to be a very private person, and so my line might be very different from yours and the next person. So it's really, I like that exercise a lot, just to kind of see where we are in ourselves.
Yeah, it would look different. This is a reminder, actually. This is a good time near the beginning of the year to kind of come back to that. So I'll do it too, and then we'll have to touch base on it.
It'd be fascinating to know where your line is.
I'm pretty open. So yeah, well, I definitely will have to I haven't done this exercise in over a year, I think. So I'll keep you updated.
Sounds good. I love it. So am I right in thinking that maybe Instagram is probably your favorite social media platform, or am I making that up?
Definitely, it's true. Yeah, I think I've referenced it the most so far in our conversation. And that's kind of just where when I was starting to experiment doing social media for business, it was like 2011 or 12. And that's right when Instagram was starting to pick up, and everybody was just posting their meals, what they're wearing, everything 10 times a day with the Instagram filters. And it was just free for all, right? So yeah, Instagram is my favorite, but we also do help clients with some Facebook. We now offer Pinterest. We have a great Pinterest specialist. TikTok, we may be exploring this year. I'm not positive. And then a little Twitter, but me personally, because we do have a team, but me personally, Instagram is my jam, and that's kind of my personal main expertise.
So I have a lot of my clients that are often hesitant to enter into Instagram world. They're really comfortable with Facebook, and they've used it the most for personal reasons, and now for a business, they feel like that's where they want to stay. And there's good and bad things about all platforms. I totally admit that. And Facebook has its place for sure. But I too love Instagram, and for me personally, like that's where I hang out the most. And so I really see the value in it. But what is your take? Like, what would you say to somebody that it would benefit their business to be on Instagram? How would you have that conversation with them to kind of explain the benefit and how it works differently than, Facebook or Twitter?
That's a good question. So I think a lot of it comes down to when you're getting to know, and you think about exactly who your community, your ideal audience is, you essentially just want to be where they are. You just need to show up where they are. And I think a lot of the, Facebook compared to Instagram conversation, some of it comes down to age. And this is definitely changing, but I would say like Instagram, it's pretty wide now, I guess, but like the, 20s to like maybe like 50 or something are on Instagram. But definitely, if you want to reach millennials, let me put it this way: if you want to reach millennials at all, that is where they are hanging out. Some of them are on Facebook too, but I'll say like especially like on the younger ends of millennials and some Gen X too is just that's where they are. And so it's such an easy, and also not just that, but Facebook has become more and more of a pay-to-play space, and Instagram's going that way a little bit, but it still is, between the explore page and the hashtags and the comment section and how easy it is to naturally hop from page to page. It is so much easier, in my experience, to build an organic reach and following and community on Instagram than it is on Facebook organically. And of course, there are on Facebook things like groups we know work really well and finding creative ways to network. But I definitely would suggest, if you're playing in the Facebook space, to put some ads, to make sure you're activating some ads and spending some ad money there. Whereas on Instagram, that will help. You should weave that in too, sure, but there's so much you can do, and it's pretty, it's a lot simpler to just, reach a lot more people organically.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I think that's one of the things I like, both as a user and as, like consuming content, and also as a person that's producing content. I think it just feels more straightforward to me with the way that it's set up. And I'm such a visual person too, so that Instagram just kind of really resonates with me that way too. So
that's a good point.
I have a hard time consuming a lot of written text in any one go. So the images are great.
But I think most people are visual learners.
Yeah, or at least a combination of visual and something else. And I think that there's so much that you can creatively do with Instagram as a platform that doesn't feel as natural in other settings. And I like that part too.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So you said that you officially started your agency back in 2016. Is that right?
Yes. So I started Style Opal as a blog in 2014. It was on Tumblr. I remember Tumblr. I was such a Tumblr girl in high school and some of college, and right before Instagram took off, right? But in 2016, that's when I was like, okay, this is going to become a social media agency. This is going to be a real thing and, career path for me. And the next year, I was fired from that shoe retail job and forced into full-time being in my business.
I like how the universe works that way sometimes, right?
The universe does work that way. Literally in April, it's time. I know. And I knew it. April 2017, I remember like waking, because part of the reason why I love working in digital marketing and just having an online business, I'm sure you can relate, is the freedom of being able to be where I want to be, wherever has Wi-Fi, right? And I was waking up at my friend's spot in Hood River, a place near the Columbia Gorge here in Oregon. And I was like, man, I want to be able to do this more often. I also I need to figure out a way to get out of this job. Like, it's not serving me. It's not, I was actually networking quite a bit, selling the shoes, building customer relationships, but I was like, I need to find a way out. And then I made the like hour drive back to town and into the store, and I walk in and the owner was like, hey, this is your last day today. So manifested that one. And then I was, I had some clients, but I'll be transparent. I was, getting unemployment too. And that's how that, just started to build from there. As a real kick in the pants for me, to say the least.
Yeah, when it's kind of forced upon you, even if it is right, it can be really challenging and kind of finding your footing and that kind of thing. Was there anything really surprising about when you kind of went out on your own and any kind of challenges that came up?
As far as challenges, one of the biggest things that I faced, and I would say like have overcome, although it's always a work in progress and I'm always working on it, is confidence. And, if you're selling anything, and especially for service providers that have this face-to-face conversation, if you're consulting or even, just pitching your services, in the beginning, I wasn't as confident. And even if the material was really good, I had a moment, Pepper, where a client literally told me, and this was like such a wake up call. I had two or three people tell me, because I had my boyfriend who I met back in college told me, he's like, hey, just when you communicate in general, you kind of like mumble and trail off sometimes. And I was like, oh, I do. That's a thing I do. Okay, I guess I need to work on that. And then I had a conversation with a client one time, and she was real with me, thank God. And at the end was like, hey, this was such helpful information. This is going to impact my business so much. But can I tell you something? You don't sound very confident delivering this information. And like, thank God she said something there. And I think in the moment I was like at a working space and was probably trying to be quiet. And it was early on, and confidence is just so huge, right? And just in delivery is so huge, because obviously nobody's going to buy from you if you don't believe in what you're selling and what you offer, and you're not coming off that way. But also energetically, in terms of I think I've just learned a lot about putting out the energy that you want to receive back. Like now I go into calls with the mindset of like, yes, like there's a feeling of yes already in the air, and we're excited and energized. And so I bring that energy here, and also because that's kind of what I want out of my interactions, and just more likely to have more successful, calls and sales that way too. But it feels better. It feels, more open and energized. And I think I was a little bit closed off in the beginning. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with confidence, here and there, and maybe even on the regular, but especially in the beginning, gaining confidence in what we're offering and selling and what we're bringing to the table.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting too, because like, even if you're, like you said, you're confident in what you're offering and what your abilities are, but it's a different conversation when it's just you on your own versus you like representing a company or whatever. Like it's suddenly it's this different shift of like mindset, that it's like you're kind of out there on your own in the middle of like everybody like naked almost. And it's like
Yeah.
like learning how to like be okay with that in a way, and just showing up like you said. And I love what you said about the energy that you project is definitely, it has such a big impact on what you get back, and reminding ourselves of that. I have to remind myself that a lot. And I am not an extrovert. I am very much an introvert, and I struggle with the energy part a lot. So it's a good reminder.
Definitely. Yeah, I try to check in with myself about it often, and just like being your own best hype woman too, right? But also there's also things like, of course, working with coaches. I think that's helped me in just like gaining experience. But yeah, it does feel naked, like you're naked to a degree. That's such a funny and true way to put it, because you're like, hey, it's me. Here I am. Here's what I have to offer. What do you think? Yeah. But people want to see you succeed. Like we have to remember that too. Nobody's out there being like, oh, I really hope they fall on their face and they don't get any clients. Like at the end of the day, we want to see each other succeed. And if you are confident and somebody sees you in the way you're representing your business and your services, that would inspire them to, show up too.
Yeah, definitely. So one quick question before I dive into one last thing. for businesses that are kind of struggling to do all of the social media that they want to do on their own, how do you as a business, not you personally, but how does a business know when it's time to hire an agency like yours? And what is it that needs to be in place, or what do you have to have ready to be able to kind of, come to somebody like you?
That's a good question. Definitely. So I would say, yeah, because sometimes our clients are entrepreneurs that are maybe like a one woman show that just simply can't do it all anymore. Or maybe she has a small team too. Yeah, like a small medium business with a team, maybe even a marketing team. But I would say, and especially thinking about the listeners who are entrepreneurs themselves and maybe more likely a one woman show, maybe,
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
who hire out as needed. I think it would definitely be, when you get to the point where your time, if you're, first of all, if you're not seeing results from social, definitely at least get some strategy advice. But if you're finding, like, I guess I'll go back to the jeweler example again, maybe because like my best friend's a jeweler and I think about her business a lot too. But if your business is doing well and you're getting, and you have your sales and you have your emails and you have your customer relationships and you have all these other pieces of the business that you need to do, and you're not very good at social and you're not seeing a return on your investment on your time spent there, it is a great place to build your business. But if it's not your jam and your time is better spent, like you already have a full-time job running your business, then I mean, I would definitely encourage somebody to experiment with trying it out, and at least strategy, if not actual management. But I think a lot of people also sometimes are hesitant because it's like it's their business and maybe it's a personal brand, or maybe it's just the fact that they've been running it for so long. And a lot of people have the hesitation of, is this agency or person going to be able to get a hold of my voice? So I think
Yeah.
definitely asking, the agency, the company, for examples of how they've written content for other brands, because you want to make sure they can really like adapt your voice and speak to and connect with your community and build your community, right? But yeah, I would say if you're finding yourself with no time to do social and you're just straight up not showing up, sometimes that's
Yeah.
what I see. Their business is doing fine, but they are just not showing up on social. And a lot of times people will see the difference between when they're showing up and when they're not, but they're just still not doing it. It's
Right.
not their thing. Um, that would be a good time to hire out too. If you're not seeing results, if you don't have the time, or if you're just not showing up, because consistency, like with most
Yeah.
things, is key on social.
Yes. Well, and I totally agree with you about the concern about somebody being able to find the voice that is your business, because it's such an important part of your brand. If your business is so centered around kind of who you are and what you're offering, and finding somebody that can really speak as you and know what that is, I highly recommend you and your agency, because you're one of the few that I have seen that can really do that successfully and do that well. And so definitely kudos to you guys for being able to do that. Love you guys. So you have a new course coming up, is that right?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's one of my favorite parts about social is to I used to like love acting when I was a kid, so it almost reminds me of that. So I really
Oh
appreciate
yeah,
that. And then
that's a great carryover, yeah.
yeah, but it's still all real and true and authentic, right? But we have a specific process around kind of getting into the minds of the business and the audience they're reaching. But yes,
Yeah.
we do have a course. So I have a signature course called Instagram Bootcamp that's about the 4 pillars of a successful converting Instagram for business. We've run it
Okay.
live 3 times before, and we're going to be relaunching that here in Q1. And I'm really excited for that to come out. They're going to be able to, watch the trainings, and there's also going to be a live kind of mastermind like group call option as well, which is my favorite part.
Awesome. So where can people find you, I guess, on Instagram, since that's your favorite?
Yes, on Instagram, we are at the Style Opal, like the stone. I'm at Jyssica Yelas, JyssicaYelas, and our website is styleopal.com.
Awesome. Well, this has been so much fun and so informative and lots of good reminders for me. And I'm going to go do that exercise now on my vulnerability line.
Yes.
But thank you so much. It's been so much fun talking to you. It always is. And thanks for being on the podcast.
Yes, Pepper, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jyssica, for talking with us today. You can find out more information about Jyssica and the link to her website and the show notes for this episode at smallbusinesssisterhood.com/32. I hope you found this episode useful and inspiring. If you did, please pop over to iTunes and leave a review. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time.